Cut music. Thank you. Good evening and welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Stutzman,
I'm Drew Atchison.
and in a very special show of the Comics and Cinema Club, we're going to be going into something that really makes me excited: the official, brand new Marvel Ultimate Universe.
Yes, sir. We're going to be talking about not just the new Ultimate Universe, but also the old one as well, because that has a very complex and interesting history, and also how it got to where it is, and why this one, in our opinion, is much more superior than the old one, and why a lot of people are agreeing too. Actually, if you look at the stats, we'll get into that in a little bit as well. But I guess we should just go ahead and start because there's a lot of ground to cover with this.
A lot of exciting ground, let me tell you something, because this book, this is the sort of stuff that reinvigorates your love for comics books. And after a really rough year in 2023, I honest to God think Marvel needs this universe now more than ever, honest to God.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that too. Actually, yeah, we're going to get into the old Ultimate Universe, the new Ultimate Universe, and sort of the current state of Marvel Comics in a sense. Like some of the good comics they're doing, some of the bad. Not like super in-depth, but just to give you guys an idea as to why we think that this universe is the much needed sort of revamp, and also why it's better than the old one, which I did say already. I have a habit of that.
Yes.
But yeah, we got again, a lot of stuff we need to go over. So I guess we should start, as they say, in the beginning, or in this beginning, early 2000s, the year 2000.
Yes, that's correct. The original Ultimate Marvel Universe was ran from 2000 to 2015. It had several titles involved in it and several volumes. And the idea behind it is relatively simple: a modern retelling of our origin stories of the best superheroes out there, including Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers, who are now called the Ultimates in the universe, as in they're the ultimate life forms. And yeah, it's a good one, but the execution for modern retelling means just being as aggressive, violent, and outright gross as possible in order to charm in new viewers. But that didn't really work out. With a lot of, I'm sorry.
No, you were on a roll. Keep going.
With a number of issues, and including sexual harassment and rape, incest, cannibalism, outright murder, and of course the grand event that killed a whole lot of the love for this universe, Ultimatum, which we'll get into in just a second. The only real universe, or issue I should say, that came from this universe that people really enjoyed was Ultimate Spider-Man, as that was the introduction of everybody's favorite Miles Morales. And to be fair, reading it over, it's not the worst. It's just very much like a teen high school drama sort of stuff, and that's fine, but I'm kind of sick and tired of that right now when it comes to Spider-Man. So
yeah, the biggest thing with the Ultimate Spider-Man series is that it's a Brian Michael Bendis book, which it's an old Brian Michael Bendis book, so it's not terrible. But Brian Michael Bendis kind of fell off the wagon, and a lot of his work is largely expository and like panels that have the same image and draw things out. That was my biggest issue with the Ultimate Spider-Man, but it did a good job of really like fleshing out his character and providing a new take on him and some characters around him too, and new villains and stuff. So that was always interesting. And that's what the Ultimate Universe was advertised as being. It was the same origins that we knew, just with different little twists and tweaks on it. And some of the stuff that it did was good. I mean, Miles Morales has become one of pop culture's greatest Spider-Man, up there with Peter Parker. He's a fantastic character, and I love that he came from this universe and he's like joined the main one. The other character who's going to play a big part in this conversation was the Maker, who basically is the this world or 1610s Reed Richards. Reed Richards basically loses his mind, goes crazy, and becomes the Maker, who is this very intelligent but psychotic sort of force who becomes a big threat for the Ultimate Universe. Those are kind of the only pros. There are some other ones, such as I think that this was the inspiration for Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, or like it took that likeness. I'm not entirely sure which came first, the chicken or the egg.
No. This is the egg came before, because Iron Man was in 2008. This was long before that.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, this birthed inspiration for Sammy J as Nick Fury, and then it went from there. And he also joined the Mainstay universe as well, where they just sort of incorporated him into. The problem, like Matt said, there were some very iffy things that they decided to do. Their take on, a modern twist was, let's be as edgy and dark as we can. because there's literally like Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have a whole romantic relationship. Captain America has a whole scene where he points at the A on his head and says, "You think the A stands for France?"
Which is very weird because he was fighting with France like a week ago from his
Yeah.
perspective.
Ant-Man and Wasp had the relationship that basically, they had a very weird relationship, and that wasn't great. Black Widow literally killed Hawkeye's family, and Hawkeye became very dark to pursue that, and she like drugged Tony Stark or something. The point is
made a
that
sex tape that got leaked at a party.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
Right.
the other thing too is Ultimatum. Ultimatum was I think 2008, 2009 event that basically was, let me put it like this. It was meant to be Game of Thrones, but with just shock value. It wasn't meant to be like the Red Wedding. It was meant to be the Red Wedding times 10. They were trying just to go for shock value, shock and awe with it, and it didn't really have that effect. Magneto basically loses his mind and decides, I'm going to, control the axis of the world and change everything, the weather, all of it. So that way everybody freezes, everybody burns, New York gets swamped in water, and it kills off a whole slew of heroes. It kills off like Professor X, it kills off Ant-Man and Wasp because Wasp gets eaten by the Blob for reasons that I don't think are actually ever explained.
And the Blob in turn is eaten by Ant-Man. So
oh yeah, he bites his head off and then spits it out. But
like I know they relate. Ant-Man and Wasp's relationship is generally not great, but nonetheless, here it was like way worse. Captain America beat the shit out of him, and like the one scene that I actually liked from the Ultimates is because Cap just beat up a giant naked Hank because he was just so abusive. So like that's the one scene I like from this.
Yeah. Did they ever explain why Blob was eating Wasp though? That is
because he's
the more
fat.
I think about it,
he's just fat. That's his whole thing.
It just comes out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden you just cut to the Blob and he's like, I'm now a cannibal. And it's like, okay, where did this come from?
Was this always his thing? Like, I guess, but I don't know. Why do people just seem to think that Blob is just generally fat and unhealthy? That's his mutant power is what causes his physique. And it's not just because he eats everything. Come on, it's just supposed to be, treat him with some respect. Like, I know he's a joke, but still.
Yeah. Blob is actually a cool character. When he's not being played for laughs and everything, he's actually a fun guy to see in comics and on screen. But it's just that was Ultimatum basically became the Ultimate Universe. Dark, edgy, over the top, not really having any purpose besides just being, let's be as, intense as we can, but not have any purpose to it. And so that continued after Ultimatum. It continued into the death of Spider-Man and all that. And then all of that led to 2015 when a new Secret Wars event came into play. And Secret Wars basically had two Earths, Earth 616 and Earth 1610, collide together and explode. And that was the end of the Ultimate Universe.
For that point. And technically speaking, like it's still there, but nobody really wants to do anything with it anymore. And it's probably easy to understand why, because as long as it was generally just negatively or just like mixed reviews. And it's kind of expected to be this kind of graphic and disturbing when Mark Millar is the head of this universe. But the guy is just the patron saint of all angry 13-year-olds, as Lindsay Ellis once called him.
Yeah, it also just was like, my biggest issue with it is that what they were trying to do was not interesting enough. Their whole thing was, let's just take the original universe and tweak everything very slightly. We're not going to change their origins or anything. We're not going to do anything super big or super different. We're just going to do the tiniest of tweaks and change some things, like Punisher becomes Captain America at one point or something, and they do some other stuff there. But it just never felt like it was super different than the Marvel universe, besides being super dark and edgy, or the main 616 universe, I should say. So again, Secret Wars, written by Jonathan Hickman, that sort of ended the Ultimate Universe. Everything came to a close there for about until 2023. And then,
actually, fun fact, until it has actually built up that we were going to come back to the Ultimate Universe in 2018 with Donny Cates' Venom run.
Yes.
Problem was any plans for that went out the window when Donny Cates was involved in a car accident that left him with about 6 months worth of memory loss, which is a terrible tragedy. I really hope he's doing better. Much love to his family. But with that original plan gone, new plans for the Ultimate Universe fell into veteran writer Jonathan Hickman's hands, which, in my opinion, is the best case scenario for this entire thing because Jonathan Hickman is my all-time favorite writer in comic books right now. He is
Yeah.
the absolute best.
Yeah, Hickman's a great writer. He wrote probably some of the best modern Fantastic Four stories. He redefined the X-Men when he did the Krakoa era, and he kind of just made them like into a big aspect of the Marvel universe again because they kind of faded into obscurity in a sense, where they hadn't had like great years. So he kind of redefined them. He redefined the Fantastic Four, and it's actually kind of fitting that he went from destroying the Ultimate Universe to literally rebuilding it in 2023. And yeah, on Donny Cates, he had teased in his Venom run from 2018 to 2020 that he was going to do the Ultimate Universe. The Maker had been a big part of that, and then all that happened. Sadly, he had some Thor plans too, which looked sick, and sadly that went out the window as well. So they had to go back to the drawing board, unfortunately. But back to Hickman. 2023 is when a new series comes out called Ultimate Invasion. And Ultimate Invasion basically saw the Maker wanting to return home or to basically find a new universe besides Earth 616. And he finds, I believe it's called 6160, I think it is.
6160.
Yeah. He goes to 6160, which is basically a world that's just like the original Marvel universe. And he changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
He basically, it starts off with him, like the first issue ends with Peter Parker going to the science facility where he gets bitten by the spider, and the Maker intervenes and takes the spider before it bites him.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets even larger where he basically puts, like, the Hulk is a part of like this big cabal that he has. Howard Stark and Obadiah Stane work for him. All these other characters are changed. Their lives are altered. Hickman has a thing where he really likes to do like information pages on all of his comics, or most of them. And he had an information page that like kind of detailed. Captain America Steve Rogers went missing.
Thor was captured and blamed for Odin's death, immediately leaving Loki to take the throne of Asgard. Like, that kind of influence is amazing.
All the Fantastic Four except for Reed Richards died, and Reed Richards was locked in a prison by the Maker's design and literally became the new Doctor Doom.
Which makes
Bruce
me wonder
Banner,
what happens to the real Doctor Doom.
Yeah, I mean, he might have been killed too. I actually don't know. Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange gets locked up. All these other characters get put under control. And what's kind of interesting to me is that the Ultimate Invasion revolves a lot around Howard Stark, which to me was kind of cool. I like Howard Stark has been a character in comics, Tony Stark's dad, but not in that kind of role.
Mm-hmm. He's Iron Man in this universe.
Yeah, he's Iron Man for a little while until Kang the Conqueror from the future intervenes and starts sort of like trying to kill the Maker to undo everything he's done. I will say from here on out, there will be some spoilers if you guys haven't read these comics. I don't know who hasn't, but if you haven't, please go read these. They're great. They're better than the current state of the Marvel universe. All this happens, Howard Stark basically confronts the Maker. The Maker gets locked away for months, and Tony ends up taking on his father's legacy as not Iron Man, but Iron Lad. And
he's really young.
Heavily implied.
I think like a Maker interfered with Howard's relationship with his wife. I think like Tony Stark was born much later than expected because he's just 16 in this run, I think.
He kind of looks like Armored Adventures Tony Stark, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. That's fascinating because it's like that's the Iron Man show that I grew up with because everybody either grew up with the 90s show or something else or the Armored Adventures.
Armored Adventures. Yeah. And it's heavily implied that Tony Stark is going to be Kang the Conqueror because he takes on the mantra of Iron Lad, who in comics becomes Kang the Conqueror. The other thing too is he teams up with Doctor Doom. They start taking caches from the Maker's secret supply that basically prevented heroes from coming into existence. They find Captain America and they set off to right everything wrong with the world as this mysterious cabal of villains, I should say. Like, there's actually like Magique. Magique is a part of this cabal.
Colossus and
Omega Red's a part of it.
It's a mix of heroes and villains, which I really appreciate because it's showing what can happen when you can do anything with the universe.
Yeah. Hulk's a part of it. Captain Britain's on it. So they're all sort of like Moon Knight. Like there's a version of Moon Knight who's on it, who's like a mix of Ra and Khonshu who are working together.
Hmm.
And from there, the comic basically splits into three different, like Ultimate Invasion ends. Three new series are spawned off of that, which will be joined by a fourth one in, I believe, June. Uh, the three that are going right now are Ultimate X-Men, which is basically a twisted coming of age story that focuses on the X-Men in Japan, specifically Armor, and her having some very sort of twisted stuff come about. It's has a lot of horror elements and it plays into Japanese folklore as well. Then he got Ultimate Black Panther, which plays around with it plays around basically it's kind of like Dune. That's how I kind of look at it. It's basically
Yeah.
Black Panther is fighting against Khonshu and Ra and Moon Knight and trying to prevent them from invading Wakanda while also working alongside Killmonger and Storm, who are revolutionaries in this world. And then
Of
you have the
course.
series that everybody's been wanting, Ultimate
Ultimate
Spider-Man. Now,
Spider-Man.
before we get into Ultimate Spider-Man, because we just did that whole history of Ultimate Comics, I think it's necessary to explain why this was so anticipated. Because
Yes, and
this isn't. Yeah, go ahead. You can
I
do
was,
this part because this Spider-Man's like one of it's both of our favorite characters, but he was hyped as hell for this, and I was too. But like, go ahead.
let's get into this. For the last couple years, the Spider-Man world has been hit after hit with everything outside of the comics because we have the game Spider-Man 2, we have Across the Spider-Verse, but the comics themselves sucked. Okay,
Yeah.
for it, like people, how could I put
Where can
this?
where would you say this can be traced back to? I think we all know where this can be traced back to because for a
All of
while
this,
Spider-Man had yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, all of this can be traced back to 2007 with One More Day because, and here's the rub of all of this, because of Ultimate Spider-Man's success throughout the 2000s, it was overtaking the main line. So Marvel's bigwigs decided, hey, this is because this Spider-Man is younger and that's more appealing to people. They take the wrong message from it and they bring
Yeah,
those elements into the mainline Spidey with One More Day, which everybody
yeah,
knows was terrible. And since then, Spidey's been on a general rise and decline and rise. He has
yeah.
his peaks and valleys.
Yeah. Basically what happened was up until that point Spider-Man had been evolving. He was an adult, he was married, he had a life. He before One More Day, he reveals his identity to the world. And because of that, Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, decides to take revenge, decides to target him. In the process, he inadvertently hits and severely wounds Aunt May, who's like 80 to 90 at this point.
Yeah.
She's old. And instead of like just, I don't know, letting her, like this is going to sound callous, but letting her die because she's an 80 to 90-year-old woman, the Marvel editors made it a really big deal that, oh, he has to save her, but he can't use tech and he can't use magic and nothing that he tries works besides making a deal with the literal devil to give away his marriage to Mary Jane Watson and basically undo all the character development that had been done. So we went back to a whiny teenage Peter Parker who was trying to work through college. Aunt May was still alive for some reason, and they went through all this stuff. And recently, it's been on decline because it felt like he was doing well with 2018's Amazing Spider-Man. It felt like they were actually going to undo One More Day, and then they just kept doing it.
And
And
now he's in
people have
the
called,
lowest. Now he's in the lowest decline of all time with the amount of character assassination, bad art, bad writing, and overall horrible impact on the rest of the Marvel universe. This Spider-Man story is quite frankly the worst comic book Marvel has published since Avengers 200. Like I'm not even going back to One More Day. This is Avengers 200 levels of bad. And to quote and channel Roger Ebert, I hate this book. I hate this book. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. Every single simpering, insulting, disrespectful, character assassinating, downright Islamophobic and sexist moment of it. I
oh
can't
yeah,
stand this book. We'll get
the reason why we
into.
said yeah, the reason why we said that so first of all, this run's written by Zeb Wells, and I actually like Zeb Wells as a writer.
I don't.
Okay, okay. Yes, boo with him on this current run. He wrote X-Men run called Helions that I really like, that he did a great job with, and then I read this and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Come on.
Much like
Um
Much like with
he also
with
go
John
ahead.
Byrne, I'm just gonna make this quick. Much like with John Byrne, he certain writers are good with certain characters and bad with certain other characters. So this is the
Yeah.
lesson we need to learn with that. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, ironically, Zeb Wells wrote Shed, which is a story about Spider-Man and the Lizard, and it's considered to be one of the most iconic Spider-Man stories, or a really highly rated Spider-Man story. But yeah, he started his run with having Peter and Mary Jane being split up again, and having Mary Jane be in a relationship with a guy named
We
Paul,
don't say that name here.
and
We are not
having
saying that name here.
two kids, which everybody was like, "What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
What the hell?"
And it was
Um,
built up like this mystery of what did Peter Parker do. It's revealed Peter Parker didn't do shit. Okay,
yeah,
it's what everybody around him did. That's what really caused all of this. So
yeah.
we're not gonna say that fucking name here. That fucker's name.
Oh,
Yes, we're not
I
gonna.
will laugh if in the new Ultimate Universe they introduce a character named Paulina. I will laugh my head off. That will be
So will I.
hilarious to me. But
But
yeah,
nonetheless,
Paul was not a liked character. And the other weird thing they did was they wrote Miss Marvel into it for very odd reasons. It wasn't really made clear at the start why she was there. Then they get into this whole, oh, what did Peter do reveal sort of storyline, which dragged on for way too long. It was really dumb. And at the end of it, they teased a major character was going to die. And everybody was like, oh, is it going to be Mary Jane? Oh, is it going to be Paul? Is it going to be Peter?
it would make sense
It
for
was
Mary
Miss
Jane to
Marvel.
die, and it was Ms. Marvel.
It
Yeah,
was not built up well. It was very stupid. The only reason they did it was to make her a mutant. So,
yeah, and
yeah,
look, I love the MCU show for her, but now this is like the one thing that I have against it. It's like it led to all
yeah,
this shit, and it's like, and not to mention the way they do it is incredibly Islamophobic because she seemed to build up like this sort of Christ figure with her very much in like a Christ-like pose on the panel it happened, and that singular panel with Peter holding her corpse and
mm,
the Fantastic Four look on in sadness, and MJ and what's his name are just hugging. It is single-handedly the worst panel. It sums up everything that is wrong with this entire run. It is despicably sexist in its treatment of its female characters. It is terrible to Miss Marvel, who is a young Pakistani girl and should not be treated as a Christ figure. And it is just ruining the presence of every single character in this book. I
yeah,
can't stand it. I
yeah.
despise this
It's
book.
just, it's not a good book. And you can say that about some of the other runs going on right now too. There are some other Marvel comics that are so that are not good. Fantastic Four is really good. I like
Yes.
the direction they're going with Incredible Hulk and Immortal Thor. There are some good runs, but Spider-Man has kind of remained the stain on it. And oh, Moon Knight. I also really like Moon Knight. But Spider-Man's still sort of the stain on everything right now. He's sort of the one because he's the character that everybody loves. He's their big selling point, and they haven't been doing well with
And
him.
I guarantee you, all of that was a scam. It was a setup specifically for what we're covering here with the new Ultimate Spider-Man. It was specifically bleeding the market dry of good Spidey content in order to make fans so desperate for any good Spidey content that they're just going to eat up Ultimate Spider-Man, which I just have right here. And it
Yeah,
is not only working, it's working
yeah,
brilliantly because this first issue alone is on its fifth reprint.
yeah,
Five
yeah.
reprints.
And here's the main reason why. There's a bunch, but this is the main reason. This isn't a story about a teenage kid who gets bit by a spider. This
Nope.
is a story about a middle-aged man who's married, who's grown up, who has a wife, who has two adorable kids, who feels like he's missed something in his life and is trying to get that back. It's basically a midlife crisis story, but with Spider-Man. And it's just done so well because he's an adult. And the other thing too is in the comics, the original comic, he did not have a choice in the matter on anything. He basically was forced into it rather than having the choice of I will become Spider-Man. In this comic, they give him the choice.
Yes, exactly. In this story, um, Tony Stark and his group of Avengers, or Ultimates as we're going to call them, uh, they were targeted by the Maker's Cabal, who in turn unleashed a giant super laser onto their base, which was a mass disaster in New York. Super dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole lot of character deaths with Aunt May Norman Osborn and Emily Osborn
Yeah.
specifics. And in turn,
Yeah.
Spider-Man,
Did
Peter
you did
Parker.
you did you
Mm.
say the other big twist
Oh
of
no,
this
no, 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 no,
universe?
no, 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 no. We're getting to that. But
Okay, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
before that space laser hit, Tony and his crew were able to escape through time into the 6 months into the future. And from there, he sent the spider and a hollow-coded message to Peter Parker saying, "Hey man, you were supposed to be bit by this radioactive spider to become one of the world's great superheroes, but that was taken from you. Do you want it back?" And Peter, feeling like he was missing something all his life, like you said, even though his life is great, he has his wife. He has his beautiful wife, Mary Jane Watson. He has his two adorable children who seem to be very smart. He has a good job at the Bugle, and we can get into the twist now if we want to. Spoiler,
This is
spoiler alert.
the other biggest twist that I've ever seen because we both got the comic and we're reading it and we were both blown
Wow.
away by what
Yeah.
they did because for probably the first time in a lot of Marvel comics, because he has been a character but not this main, Uncle Ben is alive in this
Yep.
universe and Aunt May
Woo!
is gone. And
For
that's the
once.
biggest twist that they could have done. And it was
Honest,
because the way that they built it up. Yeah, go ahead.
honest to God, he was
The way that
in none of the things advertising for this. He was
yeah.
just not involved. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh well, no, it was just a great, well-kept secret. But when they first introduced him, Peter goes into the Daily Bugle, and J. Jonah Jameson is screaming, "Parker, Parker!" And he sees Peter, and he's like, "Oh, hi, Peter!" And then he keeps going, screaming, "Parker!" And then the next big panel is just Ben sitting in his office as the editor or assistant editor in chief, and just sitting there. And it's like the biggest reveal they could have done. It was so good, and it
I
changed up the whole universe.
That's the sort
But
of twists and expectations that we could expect from this, like this whole universe, and we'll get into the rest later. But for right now, for Ultimate Spidey, it was such a shock because we were in Florida and we got our books from this comic shop. We were lucky to get those because they were selling like hotcakes. Like I tell you, they sell out everywhere in like an hour. And I get to that page and I'm just like, I'm so close to shouting out Ben. And then I
yeah,
just turned to him
I
and he's
I
like,
wasn't there yet,
I just
and then
like
it blew
turned to
my. I
him
was
and
like,
he's,
"Holy shit!"
turn to page 7 for me, please. And then he goes to it and then his eyes just go huge.
Yeah, it's a good twist, and it's a good twist because they built it up, and that's what makes the Ultimate Universe so interesting. Is that it's not just the other Ultimate Universe where it was like, oh, let's just change that, change that. It's not like going into a menu and saying I want to substitute my fries with salad. I want to substitute this with that. This is literally taking the menu, putting it into a blender, pureeing it, and then plopping it onto your plate. It's a brand new universe, brand new potential, brand new everything, and this comic is what proves that. And the
Yes.
other thing too is it gives us what we've wanted. Peter Parker as a father, Peter Parker caring for his kids and being a good person. And literally there's already there's do you want to talk about the scene where he scares his daughter, or do you want me to?
Uh,
I can.
you could
I
go ahead. You could
can.
go ahead. I feel like I've talked.
Fine. I could. There's a great scene, and if anyone's gonna read it, where Peter, he's still wearing the suit, and it's not refined yet. Still just this black faceless suit. He walks in at night to eat ice cream, and his daughter May is there, and she gets scared by him. So he takes off, the mask goes away, and he tries to comfort her, and she ends up drawing a little spider of his costume and is like, "Hey dad, I drew this for you. I think this would be cool if you put it on your suit." And it's such a cute moment. It's just like she gives him the inspiration to put it onto his suit. And then the comic that just came out today, there's a whole sequence where like he's trying on, because she knows the secret now. He's
Spoilers,
trying
spoilers,
on like
spoilers, spoilers,
different, like,
spoilers.
yeah, well, we said spoilers before,
Like,
but
yeah.
he's trying on like different outfits. We see like Scarlet Spider, we see the famous symbiote saga black suit, we see Future Foundation, we see a whole bunch of different suits come up, and then he puts on the classic suit, and she's just attached to his back, webbed up, and they're just swinging through downtown. It's not safe at all, but it's just adorable, and it's like, why haven't you done this for the past like 10 years? This is all we want. So,
Yeah,
as Spider-Man fans.
this is literally everything we could have possibly asked for and more, I would argue, because
Yeah.
uh to my earlier point before we went on this tangent. So when Tony sent him this message, Peter actively chose to let the spider bite him and give him his powers because this is his choice now. And that is such a huge divergence from when it's literally just like fate or destiny or just being in the spider's path that allows him to be this great hero. This is his choice now. Like he knows the risks that are going to go into this, but he knows it's the right thing to do, especially given the forces that are up against, including the main antagonist of this book, my personal favorite supervillain of all time, the Kingpin, who is now
The
in
big Willie
charge,
Fisk.
who is now in charge of the Daily Bugle, and just outed Jameson since he can't really. Oh, he's apparently manipulating information in favor of the Cabal, and in turn, Jameson wasn't, and Ben Parker weren't having that, so they left the Bugle and to found their own stuff, and now Kingpin is being targeted by a flying green man, green and purple man.
Yeah, who they've just named as Green Goblin as well. So they're just doing a lot of great stuff with this comic. They're putting new twists on stuff. They're twisting a lot of things. Kingpin's in charge. Big Willie Fisk is in charge of the Daily Bugle. They're bringing a new version of Bullseye. They got a new, bulkier version of Shocker. They've got a whole bunch of I'm excited to see, and I'm hoping this goes on. I'm hoping it's not just 12 issues. I'm hoping this is 25 or more issues. I'm really hoping that they keep it going for a while because this is, I mean, again, Matt said, 5 reprintings. That's when you know you have a hit. That's when you know that you're doing something right. Because
with the amount of variant covers, this is taking several spots on several companies' top 20s best-selling lists and their charts. It is literally Marvel's biggest hit of the year. So, in all honesty, if they don't continue past 12 issues, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, I could just say.
Well, unless Nick Lowe's in charge.
He's not here. Lowe's, he is very much not here.
I know. Nick Lowe's the current editor who's in charge of the current Spider-Man stuff, and he's the main reason why some of it's not been doing as good as it has.
It's all planned. Yeah, they were aware.
Ultimate Universe.
They were fucking aware. It's like watching Caesar, this dumb animal, become something super brilliant. What do you know, Amazing Spider-Man? What do you know?
I mean, they've just been doing a great job with it. And that's the biggest thing to take away, is that it's a brand new universe with a lot of new stuff for this character that everybody has been wanting. And it's great to see Hickman put his writing chops into that. The other thing to getting into, we don't have as much to say about the other stuff because Spider-Man has been the main thing we're excited about. But Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men are also very good.
Yes, let's go into this. Ultimate Black Panther, I really enjoyed because the design for this suit is honestly really, really cool. I love the silver adornments and his open mouth. That's really something interesting. And not to mention, it's pretty much what you'd expect from a Black Panther storyline, with a decent amount of twists. For one thing, he's married to Okoye in this world, not Nakia or Storm. He's literally Okoye's husband, which I find interesting. They're setting up something like, oh, maybe there's going to be some conflict given Storm's involved, but we'll see where that goes. But there's an interesting force here called the Vodukhan, who are sort of a sorcerer tribe. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't remember their name specifically, but they are.
If we mispronounce anything, we do apologize.
Yes, they're a sorcerer tribe in Wakanda who has guided the past kings before, but T'Challa doesn't trust them because he feels they have their own agenda, and they in turn just released a prophecy that T'Challa is going to have a child with a woman made of light, who is very much Storm. So yeah, that's going to be some dramatic stuff. But as Drew said earlier, the story seems very much inspired by Dune. This is a huge war epic, but there's a whole lot of prophecy. There's a whole lot of good symbolism and imagery, characters coming and going. It's just very well made for a Black Panther story. And it's very fitting that this is the first Ultimate Black Panther story, since he didn't get any attention last time. He was mute in the last universe. I can't tell if they were trying to be like Black Noir or what, but I don't know.
I mean, I like what they're doing with it too. It's like Dune, Star Wars had a baby, and it's like this basically. There's a lot of sort of mystical elements and a lot of different cool stuff and a lot of war elements into it. The usage of Moon Knight is interesting because again, Moon Knight's the bad guy in this. He's basically they're the ones who are trying to push up from their kingdom in Egypt down. I don't know geography. Into Africa more and overtake Wakanda. And because Wakanda is sort of its own sovereign nation at this point. So they're trying to overtake it and beat down the Black Panther. The other cool thing is the usage of Storm and freaking Killmonger.
Yes.
Killmonger's not a villain in this world. He's a revolutionary, along with Storm, who are basically trying to overtake and overcome the forces of Khonshu and Ra and Moon Knight. So that's really cool to see play out as well. Plus the usage of Shuri is cool to see too, and just the way that they play out this world.
So. A lot of it seems inspired by mixing the known lore of Black Panther comics with the new lore of the movies, which I very much appreciate. So that's going to be very good for new writers.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to see them play with for sure. Yeah. And the other thing, yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The other thing too about it is it feels well written. And like there's a lot of like information, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. Like there's a lot of lore and stuff, but they do a good job of slowly like doling it out. So
yeah, it's a very interesting sort of to see this lore play out. And like Dune, you're sort of expected to know this sort of stuff, and it balances out here. Honestly, it balances out in Dune Part 2, less so in Part 1. I don't know how people feel about that, honestly, but everybody seems to be on Dune. I can't. I have not seen those.
Did you see Dune Part 2? I'm just curious. Okay, you haven't. Okay. Here's the thing, and I'm not trying to get too off topic. Dune as a book, I sadly have not read. It's not that I don't own it. I do own it. It is dense, and not in a bad way. Frank Herbert is a great writer. He just drops so much information and so much lore, and that's basically what the first movie is. Once you get over what the first movie is, you're able to basically have fun with the second one because all the lore, or most of it, has been established. There's still a lot, but once you get into the second one, you have fun with Timothée Chalamet acting in Sandworms and Christopher Walken. Hi, how you doing? I'm the Emperor. Hey. Basically being there. Hey. That was a terrible Christopher Walken impression. That's the funniest thing about that movie is Christopher Walken. Like everybody else is like being them. I wanna walk like you, talk like you too.
I'm sorry. I'll never let him live it down.
I forgot he was the orangutan. I forgot he was a monkey from the Jungle Book to the live action one. But yeah, I mean
that song in the next movie.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be really funny if he did. It's just like everybody else in those movies sounds and talks the same, or sounds different, and then Christopher Walken is just like, "Hi, I'm the Emperor." But it's funny. Yo. Anyway, getting back on track. The other comic currently out in the Ultimate Universe, X-Men. That's also an interesting take.
This is going to be the one that
different reasons.
This is going to be the one that makes the anti-woke fanboys go absolutely nuts. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like super. I don't feel like that with it. It's just it's a take on Japanese folklore by Peter Momoko, who's the writer and the author. I know that Ultimate Black Panther is written by Brian Hill. I don't know who it's drawn by, and I know that Ultimate just saying the writers and artists. Let me grab Ultimate Spider-Man's written by Hickman and drawn by Marco Cicchetto, who also was actually kind of funny because when I'm backtracking a little, I apologize, but when it was announced who was the artist, I showed Matt the cover of it, and Matt was like, it looks a little. So Cicchetto did a great job with Daredevil, where he did a great job with the art and everything. He also drew Spider-Man, and Matt looks at the cover. He's like, Spider-Man looks a little dark. Who drew him? Like, it's Cicchetto.
And it's like, I didn't know. I was worried about it being John Romita again because I can't stand fucking Romita style. Yeah. Okay, not John Romita Sr. Love John Romita Sr. It's John Romita Jr. I hate since he's the current writer artist for the ASM, and his art is so wooden and ugly. It's like I was worried about that, but once he said Marco Cicchetto, which I didn't know about, it hit me. Oh, that's where I recognize his style from, and it didn't hit me on the cover where Spidey's just swinging at the camera and it's dark. I didn't think, I thought the colors were going to be muted. I was worried this was going to be like a whole problem with the franchise. No. My dumbass didn't think maybe he's swinging at night or maybe in the snowstorm. So sorry, I apologize.
I just found it funny anyway, because that's the other thing that what makes this series better than the 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 amazing one is that they're doing a great job with the art. The art is
Uh-huh.
so dynamic and it's so fresh, and then the current one is just very like blocky and wooden. So
Like
did you?
puppets
I
half the
think
time.
you were looking up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the artist right here. Is
Okay.
for Ultimate Black Panther. It's written by Hill, like you said, and it's drawn
Yeah.
by Caselli and Curiel. I
Okay.
forget
Yeah,
that
they're
first.
doing a great job with it too. The art there is really good. But then Ultimate X-Men is drawn and written by Peach Momoko, who is known for doing a lot of like manga sort of art and that sort of style.
Manga.
And yeah, I can't speak. I apologize. Um, but it just comes across as being like this really creepy take on like the X-Men and a coming of age story. And it basically focuses on the X-Men armor coming into her powers and being plagued by these mysterious creatures that are haunting her, which could or could not be Shadow King. I don't know. It might be.
Could be.
Um, yeah. But and then the other cool thing is there was a whole initiative last year where they had variant covers of like these younger heroes who were like meant to be like the younger versions of some or like the sidekicks to certain characters. And one of those was a sidekick to Storm. And none of those characters really showed up in the comics except for the Storm one, who I think her name was May something. I
Maystorm.
may be blanking, but Maystorm, my bad. Um, and that was drawn by Momoko, who brought her into her comic, which is really cool to see too. But yeah, I just think they're doing a good job with it in general. So
Yeah, it's very the art style is really unique. It's very much Edo style, which you'd expect from Momoko
mhm.
since she did Demon Days, which I'm very fascinating. It's like a very Japanese inspired style for the Marvel U. Wolverine was like a big dog in that, so I wonder if that's going
Yeah.
to carry over here. Um, the lineup for the rest of the team wasn't announced until very recently. So far, the only members we knew were going to be were Armor and Maystorm. Both of whom are very interesting. Armor apparently lost a good friend at a certain point and is plagued by these visions of that friend since her powers are just now awakening, which I am assuming was due to the events
Mhm.
of the Maker's Council attacking them and Tony Stark unleashing power. It's not really clear
Yeah.
what they did, but nonetheless, um, basically, the other members include Nico Minoru, who was a witch from the Runaway
Mhm.
series, who's not the most popular, but she's out there. We have um, someone Ashita, I forget her first name, who is the X-Men Surge, who's able to generate and build up electricity inside of her, which I think is very interesting. Will be fun to see how that works with Maystorm and her powers.
Yeah.
Um, Next up, we have two other original characters called Natsu and I don't know I forget the other one's name. She has bunny ears. I haven't met her yet, so we'll see them. Natsu
Yeah.
is Japanese for summer. So I'm wondering, given that she has heterochromia with one red eye and an eye patch with an X on it, I'm wondering if this is Cyclops. So that
Mm.
I think
Maybe.
that'd be interesting. And the last
Yeah.
one, I'm sorry, I'm gonna finish this
Uh,
up.
The other thing too is that Ultimate Black Panther has 2 issues out. Ultimate Spider-Man has 3. Ultimate X-Men just came out this month, so there's
Yeah,
only 1 issue out currently. So there's still a lot of new information coming out about that comic. That's why we talked more about Ultimate Spider-Man than the other two, because the Ultimate X-Men is good. It's just there's not a lot of info about it right now, and more is still coming out. So it's going to be cool to see in the coming months how that universe sort of or how that series plays out more. Same with Black Panther. So
yeah, and I'm honestly hoping that we do eventually get some other well-known X-Men involved in this. That I dislike
mhm.
this cast at all, because it was also shown on the cover. There's a girl who wears green and white and yellow gloves and has a white streak through her hair, so that leads me to think this is Rogue. So that'd be cool.
Might be.
We could get Wolverine, we could get Nightcrawler, we could get Beast. This would be a pretty solid lineup, honestly. But uh, so far, this is pretty interesting. And this was, again, just announced. So we're going to see
Mhm.
where all of this goes. But I am. I'm just fascinated by this because a lot of this stuff is very interesting. The synopsis says they're going to learn how they're connected with Japanese folklore, and we're going to see how that plays out. And that's very
Mhm.
fascinating because Japan has a whole lot of folklore. Wondering if there's a giant spider lady mutant out there somewhere just trapping people behind a
Yeah,
waterfall.
might be possible. I mean, it's just gonna be cool to see how they do all that, and I'm excited to see how that plays out too, because Japanese folklore is very rich and very diverse, and I'm curious to see how Momoko continues to unveil that with all of it.
Yeah, and so am I. So
Um,
I'm really excited for that, and I'm really excited for all
yeah,
of these runs because they are very much needed for all these characters. We went into why it was
mhm,
needed for Spider-Man, but Black
yeah,
Panther also recently got a whole lot of disrespect from his last couple of runs, and
mm,
the X-Men, as good and uh, as good as some of these runs are, there are so freaking many runs for them that it
yeah,
is really really hard to keep up with, so I could use a fresh starting on point like this
mhm,
because otherwise it's just kind of complicated. It's just way too
mhm.
much, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the other thing too, is that in general, this is a good starting point. If you were going to start with any comic, we'd recommend starting with the Ultimate Universe or the new Ultimate Universe. Start with Ultimate Invasion, work your way into everything else, and go from there. I definitely think that this was a good place to start, and there's more to come apparently because they're doing a new Ultimate series, which is going to have Iron Lad, Tony Stark, Doctor Doom, Reed Richards, Thor, Sif, and this version of Ant-Man and Wasp teaming up to fight against the Maker's Console and take back their world. The other thing I'd love to see, and this is just a series I don't think they'll do, but I'd love to see it, is a Captain America series where, because in this universe, Cap never got unfrozen until this point, but where he re-enters the world and he goes hunting down like the members of Hydra who escaped. Like he basically goes hunts down like Red Skull or Baron Zemo and like all these old Hydra agents who are still alive and in hiding. I think that'd be cool to see.
Yeah, because
Um,
unless the Maker did something with them and only Viper leads Hydra, 'cause she's on the council,
mhm.
but uh
Oh yeah, she is.
nonetheless nonetheless like I have no idea what he did with the other Hydra leaders, because so technically
Mhm.
Zemo could still be hiding out in South America for all this time,
Yeah.
like the original Zemo, not the one we all know. That'd be very
Mhm.
interesting, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it'd be cool to see it play out if they ever do go that route. And I want to see them do more stuff with other heroes too. I really want to see them mess around with like Thor and other stuff and just keep playing it out because this is a very unique universe that can have a lot come into play.
Yeah, and a series I want to see them do is an Ultimate Guardians of the Galaxy, and I've talked about this with Drew. But the idea I had with him was that for Monica Rambeau, uh, the Maker shot her off on his space mission just to
Mm,
not come back, and she encounters a whole bunch of other weirdos that are kind of just alone, like Rocket and Yondu and Beta Ray Bill and Cosmo, because I love Cosmo and I love
you
all of
need
these
Cosmo
guys.
the dog.
And
Yeah.
I was thinking the main villain for this series could be someone like Carnage, who could either be under the Maker's control, maybe they're not. Maybe they're just out in space somewhere because they're Carnage and whatever. And then they're just causing a whole bunch of destruction across multiple star systems, to like taking down the Korean Skrull Empire, taking out Ego and Gore the God Butcher. Basically, the
Mhm.
idea I had for him was that Maker sent Cletus Cassidy with a cloned version of Carnage that he got from the Donny Cates run. Um, that he sent them into space to take care of like space threats that he's not like totally aware of, or even if or just ones that he can't really prepare for on Earth, just to make sure
Mhm.
his planet stays safe. So Carnage goes off on his space rampage and basically becomes the top dog, and the Ultimate Guardians in turn team up to take him down, which is one that I really want them to see, especially if Beta Ray Bill's involved, because I love Beta Ray Bill.
They need to do something with Beta Ray Bill. That guy just needs more attention. I love him. He's such a weird character, but he's so cool. Um, Getting a little off topic, Beta Ray Bill's like a weird horse guy who appeared in Thor comics, and he's become like everybody's favorite character because he's just so cool.
He's just so
And
cool. Like there's no real way to explain it
yeah,
other than he's just really cool.
yeah. If you want a good Beta Ray Bill comic, Argent Star by Daniel Warren Johnson is phenomenal. And I not trying to go off topic again, but I love Daniel Warren Johnson as a writer and as an artist. He knows when to go like really intense with it and then to pull back in the really good emotional moments. He kills it with Beta Ray Bill, and there's another comic we'll talk about at some point that he nails as well.
Yes.
But
Let's
on
get
the
to that.
Ultimate side of things, yeah, at some point, Ultimate side of things, I definitely am excited to see where they go with this, and I definitely think that there's a lot of potential, and they could do something with Hulk too if they really wanted to. So
Yeah, they really could. They could do something with all of these council members because I like seeing them as villains. But nonetheless, again, a
yeah,
lot of these guys are heroes since we have the likes of Hulk and Colossus. Colossus has a whole lot of honor to him. So I'm like, oh man, I wonder how he feels about all this.
yeah,
Sunfire is on the team too, and uh, and granted, we have villains too, like Omega Red. Hulk technically is a villain sometimes, but not. But he is generally remembered as a hero. Here, he's very much a
yeah,
villain, and we have the likes of Silver Samurai, Viper, I mentioned earlier, and so many, and Emmanuel da Costa, who's a member of the Hellfire Club. So
yeah.
I can't. I'm wondering where are the. I'm wondering if they're going to have some conflict with each other, if they're as tight knit a group as they want to appear to be. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to see where that goes.
It'd be cool to see if they do something with that for sure. If they like do a mini series about the different members or something. We call them the Cabal. I almost see them as like an evil version of the Illuminati, if I'm being honest, the more I think about it.
Well, that's what the
So
Cabal is generally. I see them as
that's fair. That's fair.
that's like I see them as Marvel's version of the Light from Young Justice in the current
That's fair.
DC comics. Like they just seem to be so in control of everything, and I honest to God can't wait to see what they're going to do, especially if they have the likes of Kingpin working for them. Because according to Ultimate Spidey 2, uh, Kingpin is just one king that they have appointed towards various areas of North America, and I'm wondering who else they have in their control. We could have like Justin Hammer, or how about the Minotaur from
Oh
Roxxon.
yeah.
We
Very Mater.
could have a whole lot of businessmen be involved in this. And
Yeah.
Kingpin, again, my favorite villain is their newsboy, basically. So,
Yeah.
or their Ted Turner. So I can't wait to see what they do with him, given that he's basically one of Marvel's best villains. And the first 6 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man are building up to the conflict with him. So we're going to see where that goes. And I really hope he sticks around beyond those six
Yeah.
issues and becomes a big force in this world because, again, Kingpin's the best.
He really is. And it's really cool. Like he's just a cool character in this. You said Ted Turner, and it just made me think because I'm where I am, like Ted Turner's a big name here in
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta. And literally there's a street called Ted Turner, and I just imagine what it was called Wilson Fisk. Just like so yeah, that'd be funny to me. But no, yeah,
Uh,
I mean they're doing interesting stuff, and that's just what we want. We don't want the same thing recycled. We want new stuff. We want new content, and they're doing a great job with creating a new world and new universe as just regurgitated origins with some tweaks and different things here and there. It's definitely a brand new, fresh start, and that's what's really good.
And
So
even if it does do repeat elements like Spider-Man versus Kingpin or the Green Goblin or whatever, they're fresh and new still.
yeah,
Like they are able to take these old ideas and I'm able to make them so refreshing to see after all this time, even after all of these battles that all these characters have had before. This all just feels like new and unexplored territory, even if some areas already are explored. They just feel
yeah,
exciting.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like it actually feels like the ultimate version of the Marvel universe because I mentioned this before, but I watched Ben 10 as a kid. In one series, they remove his device and give him a new one that allows him to turn into his aliens. And when he slaps it again, they turn into a more powerful version called their
Oh, yeah.
ultimate versions, like Swampfire and Humongosaur. And this feels like somebody took that device, the Ultimatrix, put it on any Marvel comic, slapped it, and these actually do feel like ultimate versions of these characters. Unlike the last one, which just
Yeah.
basically feels like the same one, but 2000s. Like we want to say
Feels
more
like they,
modern. It's more modern by
yeah.
2000 standards.
Well, it feels like they slapped it once rather than twice.
Yeah.
That's the best way I look at it. Is they slapped it like once and then they slapped it twice, and now you have this universe, whereas the one time is the current series or the old Ultimate Universe.
Yes,
So,
and like the old one
yeah.
again. If we want to say more modern, it's very much dated in 2000 stuff. Like at one point, in one book I read,
Yeah.
MJ just said the R slur like casually, like, ugh.
Yeah,
Like I know that's to
that's
be
another
expected with
problem
Mark
with the
Miller.
writing. Well, it's just well, Mary Jane said that you said?
Yeah, Mary Jane said that
Was
she's
that
upset.
in an Ultimate comic?
Yeah, in an
Or was
Ultimate,
that in
in the old one, Ultimate
Okay.
Marvel, like not the current one, the old one. In
Okay.
the
Well,
old one,
no, the
she's
Ultimate Spider-Man run by
yeah,
Bendis or
yeah, I think so. Because
okay,
like
then that was a Bendis move.
yeah, but nonetheless, it's
So
like you could see Miller was involved with that because in some way, but it was just sort of a casual thing back then. It wasn't
yeah.
as big a deal, but still, now we know
So,
better,
okay.
and it's
Yeah.
wrong then and it's wrong now as we understand. But nonetheless, it's
Mhm.
like when she said that she was mad, and we can understand. I could let it go, but still, it's like, come on, do we really need this kind of language? And we can expect that sort of language. It's not going to be in this because this feels more timely, whereas before the last one feels more dated, which I very
Yeah.
much appreciated.
And it's just a great again, I've been saying this a lot, but it's a great new start. Sort of like last thoughts. Like I love what they're doing with Uncle Ben. I love what they're doing with J. Jonah. I love what they're doing with Spider-Man. I love what they're doing with Black Panther and all of them. But Uncle Ben and J. Jonah are like two old men who are basically starting their own newspaper. It's cool to see that subplot because it's like, we come for Ultimate Spider-Man, but we're also like, oh, this is a cool subplot. I don't know where this is gonna go. And the framing of it as like the first 6 months of Peter Parker's new life is really cool too. Black Panther with this whole revolution going on. It's cool to see how that plays out. I'm curious to see how Killmonger and Storm play into it. Same with Peach Momoko's run with X-Men and all those characters coming into the fold and slowly fleshing out this weird, bizarre, and creepy mystery. I'm just really excited to see where this goes. And it seems like it's really off to a fresh start and good start.
Yes, absolutely. If you haven't read this, I don't know what rock you're living under, but please go to your comic shop, find like the
Yeah.
fifth reprint of Ultimate Spider-Man. Because again,
Yep.
5 reprints. They don't do that often for just any book. This is clearly something special. But just go to your comic shop, get yourself a copy, and support this run. We want this run to
Yep.
make as much money as possible so that Marvel gets the hint that this is what we want more of. And we want more than 12 issues. We want like a full ongoing. Let this last for 15 years like the last one did. So that's my closing
Hopefully it
thoughts. And
does.
also one more thing. I know a lot of people read Uncle Ben in the comics whenever he shows up with Cliff Robertson's voice. This one I'm imagining sounds like Walter Cronkite almost. Like I could just imagine
I can
those
hear that.
those like deep baritone voice coming
Yeah.
from this old
I can
man.
hear see
It
that.
fits. I like
I
that.
mean, I still hear J. Jonah Jameson as J.K.
Yes,
Simmons, but
yes, of course.
yeah,
That
no,
goes
I,
without
I can
saying
see
about
Walter
Ben
Cronkite
Parker.
though. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that for Ben Parker though.
they have a really good dynamic here. It's very much two old men situation, just being old, and it's just very
Yeah,
much funny. It's not something that you really expect, like Ben working for the Bugle or these two getting
or
along
him
so
being
well,
alive.
or him being alive. Yes, like
Yeah,
it's all just so fascinating. Honest to God,
yeah,
this is just again we got this in Florida, and we went to the Orlando Universal Studios because they have a Marvel Land. We were hoping it was there, but it wasn't.
yeah,
But I got Dark Phoenix there. What did you get?
yeah. I don't think I got any comics there actually. I got
Oh,
some
okay,
T-shirts though.
okay,
But ironically, that same day we did ride on the Spider-Man ride, and
yes,
then the day after that same day we went to a comic store near us and we got this comic. We read it and our minds were blown. It was
yes.
fantastic.
He
Um,
he saw me. I was literally hugging mine like an old friend. Like
yeah,
this is my Spider-Man. This is
it's
the
just
ideal
it's a fun
version of it.
run. It's a really fun run, and we're hoping that it goes on for a while. So,
Yes.
but yeah,
So those are our closing thoughts. Thank you
yeah,
so much for joining us, and join us some other time as we cover whatever we want. Maybe we'll cover Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four to go into why we
yeah,
really love him, and maybe we'll go into why we love a couple DC characters. We'll go into DC eventually, we promise.
yeah.
But still, though,
Eventually, there's some stuff to cover in DC for sure. There's controversial stuff. There's non-controversial stuff. There's just fun comics. This is like of the Comics and Cinemas Club. This is the comics corner, so we're definitely going to be trying to talk about more comics. I really want to get into the Daniel Warren Johnson run of Transformers because I love that for reasons I'm not going to say now. But I'm not a big Transformers guy, so if you want
I
to know
am
why I really
so.
like that run, yeah, he's going to lead a lot of that. I'm going to be sticking my nose in and just saying my piece about that because I love it as a comic, and I love Daniel Warren Johnson as a writer and artist. He's amazing in my opinion. But that's our closing thoughts for tonight. Thank you guys for sticking around and being here, and hopefully you come back to hear us just nerd out some more. So yeah.
Yes, thank you everybody. Join us next time. Woo!
Yep. Cue the outro music. All right.
Bye.